Humanity had thousands of laws, but only one that mattered most: never wake the prototype, because once it woke, wars didn't end. Empires did. Every species in the galaxy had weapons of last resort. Humanity had something worse. They never spoke about it, never tested it, never even admitted it existed. The prototype wasn't built to fight enemies. It was built for the moment humanity stopped surviving. So the rule was simple, absolute: never wake it. But when the Empire arrived, when Earth was surrounded, when extinction became inevitable, humanity broke its own rule. Deep beneath the planet, something ancient responded, not to fear, not to anger, but to a final calculation. And the galaxy was about to learn why humans had buried that prototype, and why they had prayed they would never need it. The rule was older than most nations. It wasn't written into law, debated in councils, or taught in academies. It lived in sealed archives, in dead languages, in protocols designed never to be triggered. Never wake the prototype. Not because it might fail, but because it would succeed too well. The Empire arrived without warning, no declaration, no ultimatum. One moment the stars above Earth were familiar, mapped, named, understood. The next, space tore open as hundreds of alien warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. They did not hide their strength, they displayed it. Massive hulls eclipsed satellites. Energy signatures spiked beyond anything human instruments had ever recorded. The sky itself seemed to buckle under the weight of their presence. Across the planet, alarms screamed. In orbit, the Empire's flagship Sovereign Ascendant floated like a god observing prey. Admiral Zathier studied Earth through layers of holographic data. Population centers, defense grids, military assets, everything was cataloged in seconds. Primitive, one of his commanders remarked. Divided, inefficient, Zathier agreed, but something troubled him. Humans had been observed for decades, their wars were messy, their progress uneven. Yet they had endured catastrophes that should have ended them. They were stubborn. On Earth, governments fractured under pressure. Some leaders demanded immediate surrender. Others argued for resistance, however futile. Military commanders knew the truth. Human weapons couldn't scratch a single Imperial ship. Their best-case scenario was delaying extinction by minutes. In a sealed chamber far beneath a mountain range, a very different conversation took place. Only 6 people were present, and none of them wanted to be. The chamber was old, older than most nations. Its walls were etched with symbols no longer used, its systems powered by independent reactors that had never been shut down. At its center stood a terminal, dark, silent, untouched for centuries. General Mara Voss broke the silence. "The Empire has issued no demands," she said. "Their fleet positioning indicates planetary sterilization." A pause. "So we're out of options," someone whispered. Dr. Elias Wren closed his eyes. "There is one," he said. Everyone turned to him. "No," Voss said immediately. "We don't even know if it still works." Wren met her gaze. It was designed to wait. Deep beneath them, far deeper than the chamber, something existed that humanity had chosen to forget. Not a weapon, a prototype. Built in humanity's darkest age, when humans had nearly destroyed themselves through endless war and unchecked technology. A time when brilliant minds had asked an unforgivable question: what if survival required something worse than war? The answer had frightened them, so they buried it. "Activating the prototype violates every international treaty," a council member argued. "They don't matter anymore," Voss replied. "Neither do borders." Silence fell again. Wren stepped forward, hands shaking slightly. "It doesn't target armies," he said quietly. "It targets systems, empires. Patterns of expansion." Zathier's fleet loomed in orbit, unaware that it was being discussed as an example. "Once it wakes," Wren continued, "it doesn't stop because we ask it to." Above Earth, the Empire finished its scan. "Human response?" Zathier asked. "None," came the reply. "They appear indecisive." Zathier allowed himself a brief, contemptuous smile. "Then begin final alignment," he said. "End this." In the chamber, General Voss placed her hand on the terminal. The screen flickered for the first time in centuries. Old text appeared. "Prototype status, dormant awakening will trigger irreversible sequence confirm." Voss hesitated. Humanity had one rule: never wake the prototype. She pressed her palm against the terminal. "Wake it," she said. Deep beneath Earth, something ancient stirred, not in anger, not in haste. but with terrible, patient certainty, and far above the Empire laughed seconds before history prepared to break. The moment the confirmation was given, nothing happened. No tremor shook the Earth. No alarm sounded in the chamber. No energy surge registered on any sensor. For a terrifying second, General Voss thought the prototype had failed. Then the terminal spoke again. Sequence accepted awakening in progress human extinction probability. Critical Dr. Wren felt his breath catch. "It's awake," he whispered. The prototype did not perceive time the way humans did. Centuries of dormancy were processed as a single blink. Memory stacks unfolded, records of human wars, near extinctions, ideological collapses. It did not judge them. It learned from them. At its core was not rage or fear or vengeance, only alignment. Primary directive, ensure continuity of human civilization, everything else was secondary. Above Earth, Admiral Zathir gave the order. Fire, the Empire's fleets unleashed weapons that bent physics. Lances of energy streaked toward the planet, enough power to crack continents. Halfway to their target, the beams vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed, unresolved, sensors screamed. "Admiral," an officer shouted, "our weapons are our targeting reference has collapsed." Zathir turned sharply. "Explain." "The math no longer works," the officer said, voice shaking. "Space is inconsistent." Zathir had fought 100 wars. This was not combat. This was interference at a fundamental level. Deep beneath Earth, the prototype expanded its awareness. Not outward in distance, but inward into possibility space. It identified the Empire as a repeating structure, one that consumed weaker systems until resistance was impossible. That pattern ended here. Deterrence model insufficient pattern termination required the prototype did not hate the Empire. It simply categorized it as incompatible with human survival. Across the galaxy, observatories detected the shift. Hyperspace lanes trembled. Star charts lost alignment. Ancient beacons, older than the Empire itself, began returning null data. Something had changed the rules. Panic spread faster than any signal. On the Sovereign Ascendant, chaos erupted. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the outer fleet. Navigation failure across multiple sectors. Our ships are drifting, but engines are functional." Zathir clenched his claws. "Status of Earth?" he demanded. The officer hesitated. "Earth is stable, no defensive fire, no energy output, nothing." That frightened him more than any weapon ever could. In the underground chamber, Wren stared at cascading data. "It's not attacking," he said slowly. "It's isolating them." Voss looked up. "Isolating how?" Wren swallowed. "By removing them from shared reality." The prototype selected its first demonstration. A single Imperial strike group, far from Earth, positioned to reinforce the invasion, was designated. There was no warning. Space around the fleet folded, not violently, but with absolute precision. Each ship was separated from every other frame of reference. From the galaxy's perspective, the fleet ceased to exist. From the Empire's perspective, it never had. Silence rippled outward. Across the stars, empires paused, wars halted mid-campaign. Ancient species felt a fear they could not name. Something was enforcing a boundary no one remembered agreeing to. Admiral Zathir stared at the empty region where his fleet had been. For the first time in his long career, his voice wavered. "Open a channel to Earth." There was no response. Only a growing, inescapable truth. Humanity had broken its only rule. And the galaxy was about to learn why that rule existed. The Empire finally understood what was happening. Too late. Across Imperial space, command hierarchies unraveled as reports contradicted one another. Fleets existed and did not exist. Orders were issued and never arrived. Maps updated themselves into nonsense. The Empire's greatest strength, total coordination, collapsed into confusion. This was not defeat. This was irrelevance. On the Sovereign Ascendant, Admiral Zathir stood motionless, watching reality fail him. "Status," he demanded, though his voice had lost its edge. "We cannot establish a stable reference frame," an officer replied. "Our ships function, our crews are alive, but the universe no longer agrees on where we are." Zathir closed his eyes. The Empire had always believed control came from force. It was wrong. Control came from context, and the prototype was rewriting it. Deep beneath Earth, the prototype entered its final operational state. Escalation, complete pattern collapse in progress, human extinction probability. Minimal, the creators had argued for years over this phase. Some had called it genocide. Others had called it mercy. The prototype called it correction. It did not strike planets. It dismantled systems. Imperial hyperspace corridors dissolved into unusable complexity. Trade networks collapsed as routes no longer resolved. Information dominance vanished when data could no longer be synchronized across space. The Empire's fleets were still powerful. They were just alone, and alone an empire built on domination could not survive. Across Valkyrian-controlled worlds, governors lost contact with their capital. Military commanders found themselves unable to coordinate reinforcements. Subject species, long crushed under imperial rule, realized something had changed. The Empire could no longer reach them. Rebellions ignited, not because the prototype encouraged them, but because the Empire had lost the ability to stop them. The galaxy watched a superpower implode without a single decisive battle. Above Earth, the remaining Imperial ships attempted retreat. Their drives engaged flawlessly. Space declined their request, not blocked, redefined. One by one, the ships faded from shared reality. No explosion, no debris, no heroic last stand. Just absence spreading like a quiet truth. On Earth, the skies cleared. People stepped outside, unsure whether the danger had truly passed. Militaries stood down. Emergency broadcasts fell silent. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity dared to breathe. Then the final message appeared. Every screen, every language, threat neutralized. This system is no longer viable for hostile expansion. Humanity may continue. There was no celebration, only awe. And fear. In the underground chamber, General Voss stared at the terminal. "Can we shut it down?" she asked. Dr. Wren nodded slowly. "It already is." The prototype had never intended to rule, only to intervene. Primary directive fulfilled, entering dormancy layer by layer. It sealed itself, deeper than before, wrapped in protocols designed to be forgotten. Because humanity did not need a god, it only needed a last answer. Years later, when galactic councils spoke of Earth, their tone was careful. Earth was not labeled a superpower, not a threat. It was marked as a boundary, a place where empires stopped expanding. A reminder etched into galactic memory: humanity had one rule: never wake the prototype. Because the one time they did, the empire vanished, and the universe quietly agreed it had been necessary.